So the FDA wants to ban concentrated caffeine, but they don't define what the word concentrated means.
Welcome to PricePlow.
What's up, PricePlow Nation? This is Mike Roberto, founder of PricePlow, and I'm here with a little bit of a supplement industry news regulatory alert. Now, this actually happened back in April of 2018. It's already September of 2018, but we never made a YouTube video about it. We do have a blog post, which I'm linking to below, and it'll have all the PDFs that you need to read there. So basically, in April of 2018, the FDA issued a guidance document basically telling the industry that they consider concentrated caffeine to be adulterated. And once again, we have the links in our blog post below. But effectively what happened was in 2015, about 5 different dietary supplement companies were sent warning letters from the FDA stating that they believe that their concentrated, it was basically raw caffeine anhydrous powder, just a bulk raw caffeine powder. They considered that to be adulterated. Now the reason is that there were a couple of deaths. I'm not sure if they're from a specific powder that is named or anything, but there were a couple of deaths with this because the raw caffeine powder is extremely strong, and that's where the FDA has an issue. And so these warning letters were sent out, and it seems like all those companies either kind of changed things up or they did take the concentrated caffeine powders out. And so things were quiet for about 3 years, and then in April of 2018, they put out this guidance. Now, before we go any further, I have to state 2 things, well, 3 things. First, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a regulatory lawyer. If you have regulatory issues, make a comment below and I'll find you someone. I know who to get. But no, the first real comment is that first, as we've seen, those warning letters do not constitute legal action by the FDA. And high-tech pharmaceuticals have basically proven this, that a warning letter is merely just a warning, but it really is more of a warning that, hey, the FDA is willing to go to war over this, as we have, of course, seen with the FDA versus high-tech pharmaceuticals in the DMAA case, which, of course, we do have some updates on that to do it here as well. Second, these guidance documents that the FDA puts out, same thing. It is not a law. So the FDA states this on their own main guidance page, and I'll read it for you. The first 2 sentences are most important. Right there they say, guidance documents represent the agency's current thinking on a particular subject, in this case, concentrated caffeine. They do not create or confer any rights for or on any person and do not operate to bind FDA or the public. Basically, this is what the FDA is thinking. And in my interpretation of this, my opinion, I think that the FDA is stating, hey, once we put out a guidance like this, we're kind of telling you, like, hey, this is our line in the sand. We're willing to go to war for this. And we've seen that that's the case. And when you have 2 big organizations willing to go to war over something, it gets decided by the judges, because at the end of the day, right here, right now, caffeine is, of course, a legal dietary supplement. Not only is it found in nature, but it's found in copious amounts in nature. It's healthy in certain doses and everything. But the issue, of course, here is that in certain doses, it can be unhealthy. And there's no law stating, there's no law ever stating what a healthy versus unhealthy dose of something is. But that was the issue with these caffeine products. And the FDA calls this out. Is these concentrated caffeine powders, if you have a raw caffeine anhydrous powder, 1 teaspoon of it, small measurement, 1 teaspoon of it is about 28 cups of coffee worth of caffeine. And for most of us, that's a lethal dose. And that's a tiny little scooper. And so what a lot of these companies were doing is they were selling scoopers that had like 1/16 of a teaspoon dose. But the problem is that that's a volumetric measurement. And so you really can't, when you're getting down to the nitty gritty and you're trying to measure out like 150 or 200 or 250 milligrams of powder, you can't really do it with one of those scoopers. And that's part of what the FDA is mad about. And so in this video, I'll just state that, I obviously have some opinions, but I'm going to kind of try to state both sides. And then at the end, we're going to talk about where I think things are really going wrong here. But basically, the FDA hates these small scoopers. And they go on, they state, stating that reasonably foreseeable measurement errors, such as packing the powder too tightly or use of a heaping scoop instead of a level scoop, can increase the amount of caffeine in a single dose by more than 200%. Absolutely true. There's no doubt about that. And as we've seen in different weather, right now it's real humid in Texas. Things start to get clumped together, things change. It depends on how, if any of these companies are adding silica, and then if you move to one that had silica added versus one that didn't. Furthermore, my example is, let's say, it's early in the morning, so you're very tired and groggy, and you're trying to get your little stack together with your caffeine and your creatine. If you accidentally, just one time, all it takes is one screw up. If you, at one time, take your creatine scooper and put it in the caffeine, they're both white powders, you're tired, you don't know what's going on, and you drink that, you're dead. That's it. 5 grams, dead. Forget about it. And so I get it. I do understand what they're saying here. And on the other side of things, do we really need more nanny state? Obviously, there's been some incidences, but people should be able to measure their own stuff. I do believe that you do need a very, very good high quality food scale here. The one we use on this channel goes down to 100 milligrams each. You might want even something better than that. They can go down to like 10 milligrams at a time. And most people don't have those. So a lot of people are kind of relying on those like 1/16 teaspoon scoopers, and the FDA clearly didn't like that. So they put out this guidance basically stating, okay, anyone who's selling this raw caffeine powder, you're in trouble. And meanwhile, and the fact is that while a company like High Tech Pharmaceuticals is willing to put up the fight for DMAA, I don't see anyone really willing to like die on this cross. And so those powders went off the market. There might be a couple still out there. I really haven't checked, but those powders went off the market, and things have been mostly quiet on this front. But the FDA did decide to put out this guidance, which again, legally means nothing. It just means like put on your gloves if you want to go, because they don't like this. At the end of the day, I think they would have to prove that as sold, they're very dangerous. And in my opinion, I think I don't agree with everything. And the reason I don't agree is because of this. Inside of their document, they keep talking about concentrated caffeine. They talk about the powders, obviously. And then one thing we haven't talked about here are the liquids. And so some of those fat-burning liquids, they come in a little bottle and you do like a little capful shot. I think that the FDA does not like those either, because if you were to confuse that type of liquid fat burner, which comes from some of our favorite energy drink people, if you're to drink one of those and you were to think like, oh, this is an energy shot, and it turns out to be one of these concentrated fat burners where you only needed a little capful and you drink the whole thing's worth, once again, you're in serious trouble, if not dead. And so the FDA clearly, obviously doesn't like that, despite the fact that those types of injuries I don't think are very common at all, especially compared to other things that obviously the FDA is cool with. So that's, of course, going to be discussed in the comments. So the biggest issue, though, outside of we're talking about the powders and we're talking about the concentrated liquids, they never define what the word concentrated means. So obviously, okay, raw caffeine anhydrous powder is concentrated. If it's like 100% pure caffeine anhydrous, that's something the FDA doesn't like. But what if it's cut with a 50-50 silica split, and we can get a little bit better of a teaspoon scooper going with that? Is that concentrated? There's absolutely no definition about it. At what point is it not concentrated? Where is the line really at here? And so basically what we have here is a guidance that means nothing, because there's no guidance. They're not guiding anything. They're basically saying we don't like this, but they're not saying what this is. And so that's where the big issue is for me. For instance, if I had a pre-workout supplement that had 600 milligrams of caffeine per scoop, is that concentrated? Some may say yes, some may say no. I don't know. And so that's where the issue is. If you're going to put out a document, I think you need to be a little bit more specific, and then we can decide. But for now, this is a semi-legally meaningless document that is not currently enforceable unless everyone wants to go to court for doing that. And obviously the government's got unlimited resources, paid for by you and me, by the way. They will go to court over it. And so this is currently legally unenforceable. These warning letters currently don't really mean a whole lot if you're willing to fight, but you have to be willing to front the legal funds for them. So in the meantime, everyone has pretty much removed these concentrated caffeine powders. Your opinions would be appreciated below. Now, the one issue, though, is that after this happened, after we posted our blog post and all that linked in the description, now is where private industry starts to kind of have to make a decision. And what ended up happening is that some of the credit card processors were actually getting after some of the stores. And I'm not going to say who, but one of the credit card processors was getting after one of our favorite stores out there, talking about, hey, you need to remove these caffeine pills. And basically, they're tablets. And there's like 6 products or so that they wanted off the site. Otherwise, they're going to shut down their whole credit card system. And so they wanted the store to take off these tablets that were 200 milligram caffeine tablets. And so a lot of people were like, oh my God, this is government run amok. Actually, no, this is actually private business run amok. But in this industry, these credit card processors hold a lot of the power. And so when they see laws, they don't want to get audited by anyone. They don't want the government coming after them. When they see these laws, they start to freak out. Then they start to freak out the stores. And the next thing you know, we are in this slippery slope situation. But at the end of the day, the FDA really hasn't done anything. They're basically just saying, yo, don't mess around too much with these concentrated caffeine powders. But we're not going to tell you what concentrated means. Anyway, this is Mike with PricePlow. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Click the links below and you can read all about it if you're interested. Maybe we can come up to what we consider to be a more of a, a reasonable establishment. Maybe none. I would say if you had a warning label, hey, we sell cigarettes. Of course, you can't kill yourself with one pack of cigarettes right off the bat, I don't think. But if we have warning labels on cigarettes, I would say maybe for those powders, massive warning labels. Put the skull on it, do whatever you gotta do, like whatever, make it look crazy. Warning labels on these products and on all the pages selling them, both at the stores and the brand's websites, then I would be okay with this. But as it stands right now, I'm not a fan of slippery slope guidelines that don't have actual numbers when we're talking about something like the word concentrated. Anyway, Mike with PricePlow, thanks for watching. Leave your comments below, subscribe to the channel, let me know if you want to see some more of this. We can't cover every single law or guideline because there's too many of them with this government, but we can try to cover the ones that impact our lives. Thanks. I gotta read this for the conclusion of our article that we have here. So what does the FDA consider to be excessive? Given the FDA's lust for taking an inch and going a mile, citing fraudulent research in the DMAA situation, and their hypocritical stances on pharmaceuticals, we're wary of what this means for other caffeine-containing products and believe there should be set limits. Vague laws are the tools for tyrants.
Welcome to PricePlow.